Been a few hours, but it felt like days. Only been days, but it felt like months. Been gone for a year, only felt like once. Life moves fast when you do what you want.
Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, hi, I'm Chan, and today is going to be a little different. It's a story time. I'm basically going to do a labor story time for y'all, my experience. I know it's a little different from what I normally do on my channel, like with the makeup and beauty and stuff, but we'll see how this goes. I don't know if story times are gonna be a part of this channel, but we'll try it anyway and see how this goes. Nonetheless, grab your drinks, grab your wine, your snacks, and let me talk about my experience. So everything started on April 6th when I lost my mucus plug. Now, for those of you who don't know what a mucus plug is, it's basically mucus that forms like a plug, and it just helps protect the baby from any bad bacteria or infection, anything like that. And it comes out like a jelly, like a jellyfish kind of. That came out, I would say, midday of April 6th. And how I felt about it, I was like, oh god, you know, labor can happen any freaking minute. But I think I have been told, I'm not exactly sure because I didn't really do my research, I've been told once you lose your plug, then that's when your active labor starts, or it's when your water breaks. I mean, obviously when the water breaks, but I've just been told that like your labor contractions, whatever, can happen any minute. Now, April 7th was when I started feeling the pain, feeling the contractions. Now, they weren't too bad, and not only that, they weren't close together. They were farther apart, every 2 hours, 3 hours, whatnot. It was fine. Everything was fine. It was, at first, I was like, okay, maybe this is just Braxton Hicks, whatever, because I actually had forgotten that I lost my plug. So I wasn't listening to my body. I was just kind of throwing it out the window, whatever. Now, April 8th was when the contractions actually started becoming more serious. It started when I had first woke up around 7, 8 a.m., but it wasn't too bad. They were stronger, but it still didn't stop me from making content for y'all. I think I was just making reels and shorts. Now, I kind of went overboard that day with my body. I was doing fashion reels, like wearing high heels, walking around the house with high heels, cleaning, doing a lot of physical labor chores, really pushing it for my body. I don't know why I did that, but at the same time I did. I think I was just wanting to hurry up the process of labor, but at the same time, when I have really bad anxiety, I tend to distract myself with a lot of cleaning, and that's what I was doing. April 9th was when the contractions started to feel stronger, and they were closer together. That morning of, it was bad. I was just walking around the living room. I was on my yoga ball all day. But at the same time, that still didn't, I mean, it prevented me from eating and napping and stuff, because these contractions were no joke. They're like when you're going through your menstrual cycle and having those cramps, but way worse. But at the same time, the reason why they were more tolerable for me was because before I got pregnant, my periods, they basically felt like what I was feeling with the contractions. And I guess that's why it wasn't bothering me that much. And that's why I was still creating content. And I believe that day I actually was making a makeup video for y'all, like a springtime makeup look. That's not really relevant to the story. But anyway, I don't know what was going on with me, but it didn't click that the contractions were real ones. I mean, they were and they weren't. Like, I really was convincing and like gaslighting myself that, okay, this is just Braxton Hicks. But at the same time, it's like, really, Chan? They're happening for a few days now in a row, and you lost your plug? Come on now. I was a little ditzy, but I also knew that this was becoming reality because I was actually feeling my like cervix opening. It was crazy. But nonetheless, like I still stayed on the yoga ball all day. I was just walking around. I was basically just distracting myself from the pain because it became closer together. It was like maybe an hour apart to 2 hours, but it still wasn't too bad. Now, the night of that day, April 9th, because the contractions were really getting to me, it got me really tired. So I tried taking a nap, I'd say at 7 p.m. and I woke up around 9 p.m. It was the pain that I had felt around 9 p.m. woke me up, and I was like, oh my god, what the fuck is this? What the hell? Like, am I going into labor right now? What is going on? So all throughout the night, I'm like back and forth in the bathroom, whatever, and I went to get up to go to the bathroom because I felt like I needed to pee, but I went there and it felt like it was just a little bit of water. A little bit of water just came out, like a little waterfall, but it didn't feel like I was peeing. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense because I'm really trying to describe it without being so gross about it or TMI or like going over YouTube guidelines. But anyway, the water came out, but it was only a little bit. And I was like, okay, that was really weird because I didn't feel or need to push any like pee out. The whole time I'm trying to go back to bed, I kept contracting. It was basically about an hour apart now, like not between an hour and 2 hours, it was like an hour. I remember it so clearly because it started to really piss me off. I was getting irritated, I was getting frustrated, like, come on body, why aren't you letting me sleep? This is really pissing me off. Around 12 to 3 a.m. Mind, I still haven't slept, I'm still frustrated, I'm also hungry, I'm tired, but every time I would try to eat, my body wouldn't let me. Like, I would want to just throw up because the pain was bad. It was tolerable to a point, but I could only nap maybe like 10-30 minutes, but it wasn't exactly a nap. You know the feeling when you're about to go to sleep, but you're like on the surface of actually falling asleep? I don't know if anybody else gets that, but that's how it was for me. And that's why I was very freaking irritated. I was done. I was so done with life. And not only that, but that's when I started having more of a bloody show, which for those of you who don't know what a bloody show is, just look it up. I'm not gonna explain it. But more mucus, I guess I could talk about that. More mucus started coming out, and that kind of had me worried a little bit because to me it's like, okay, when your water breaks, doesn't it all just come out right then and there? For me, it didn't. That's when my sister started to tell me, like, oh, pretty sure like you have a leak, like you have a slow leak, your bladder didn't break, or your water didn't break all the way, because it only started doing the little bits of water 2 more times between 12 and 3. All I wanted to do was just sleep. But the pain started getting closer and closer, like 45 minutes to 30 minutes. And by the time it was about 6 a.m., that's when it was about like 30 minutes, I'd say? I'm not sure. But that morning, it was around 9 a.m. The contractions were super, super close. Like, I was cutting it close to about 10-15 minutes, and I'm like, oh my god, you know, I think this is actually happening. I think I'm actually going into labor. And I called my mom, and I just started breaking down, like crying, because it's my mom, like I need her. And I told her, oh my god, I need to go to the hospital. I don't know what happened. I do know what happened, but regards to like my water breaking, like I don't know if my water actually broke or what, because it was only a little bit. And then that's when my mom told me that the same thing my sister did, the slow break or slow leak. Bro, I can't even English today. I can't even freaking tell the story right. But she, on the phone, I could hear her say, oh, okay, I'll be right there in a second. And she's like trying to gather everything up. I hear her like talking to her boss saying, hey, I need to go. Like, my daughter needs to go to the hospital. And I'm just like crying and bawling my eyes out because I really needed my mommy. It was bad. She comes not even like less than 10 minutes. She gets to my house, and the first thing she does is like, get in the truck, I'll go get your stuff. Where's your stuff? She grabs the car seat, she grabs my hospital bag, and I open the door. There's a freaking towel. Like, what if I have this baby in her truck? Because mind, the hospital that I delivered at was an hour and a half away. So I chose a hospital that was about an hour and a half away, and my god, that was the best experience I've ever had. But I'm gonna get into that later. But my mom's driving me, and she's like paranoid. She's not freaking out. She's not freaking out, but she's like worried. I'm just sitting there like trying to handle these contractions, and I'm like, I'm hungry, I want some food, because I haven't eaten all night and basically hours like before. On her way to the hospital, my mom was counting my contractions, and they started to become 6 to 7 minutes apart. Like I said, why the hell did I wait so long? I don't know. But 6 to 7 minutes apart. When I went there, I checked in, whatnot, and they got me in triage pretty quickly. Now, triage, I don't exactly know how to explain it, and I don't exactly know what it is, but from experience, it's just the first place you go into, so that they can hook you up to monitors and start doing like little tests on you. Practically what they did was they hooked me up to 2 monitors. I had one on my baby and then one above, I believe, just to monitor how far apart the contractions were and how long they lasted. They were also having to watch my blood pressure and whatnot. I also had to do blood work, sign forms, yada yada yada. I was only in triage for maybe an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, I'd say. I'm not exactly sure, because all I could think about was how painful these contractions were. But I went to the delivery room that I had my baby in after triage, and that's when I started having to do this questionnaire thing with my nurse, which was fine up until she told me that I could not eat. That's when I was pissed. So the whole time I'm like looking at her with this resting bitch face, like, are you kidding me? And I look over at my mom, and the nurse is like right here. She's right in front of me, and I'm like, I'll put a photo of what I was like, me staring at her. But as you could tell, I was pissy. She hooked me up to, she had like IVs hooked up to me. Or when she left, my mom and my mom was sneaking me food. She was sneaking me crackers, all this stuff. I told my nurse that I was gonna do natural, right? And what she put in the bag, I don't remember what it's called, but What it is, it's they put a certain amount in at a time, and it makes your contractions closer together depending on how much they put in the bag. And my contractions were already 5 to 7 minutes apart, so they wanted to like hurry up the process. And 100% do not recommend, because the more they put in, the stronger my contractions were pain-wise, and they were closer together, like 2 minutes apart type closer. I forgot to say this, but when I went to triage, I was already like 6 to 7 centimeters dilated. When they hooked me up to the IV bag thing that I was talking about with those fluids and stuff, I was about 7 to 8 centimeters dilated. The doctor actually had to go in and break my water completely. That I thought was gonna be painless. No, that was not painless. That freaking hurt. Now we fast forward, right, to when I'm 7 to 8 centimeters dilated with more fluids of this thing, like giving me contractions and whatnot. My body actually started to become weak, and physically I really couldn't handle it, and I was having anxiety over it. Like, can I actually really have this birth naturally without any epidural? Yeah, I went without epidural for the longest time, so I was crazy on that part too. I started to contract heavier to the point where the midwife, or no, not the midwife, the actual labor delivery doctor was saying how I was about 9 to 10 centimeters dilated every time I would contract. My body really wasn't ready. I kept bearing down, is what they were saying, and pushing, but I wasn't doing it on purpose. My body was involuntarily pushing and trying to get the baby out. And I was like, okay, yeah, no. I didn't mean to yell at the nurse, but I was telling her, it's pushing, like he's pushing, he's ready to come out. That's when I actually started to faint. I was being held up, right? I was walking around the room, or at least trying to, but I couldn't. Like, the pains were so bad, my knees were like I was about to fall to the floor type pain. I don't mind pain, but this was on a whole nother level. If there's an issue with something, I'm gonna say it, and that's to the point where I'm like, okay, yeah, no, I can't handle this. I went back in bed, and I was about to start fainting more. The second shift nurse came in. She was the sweetest ever. I don't remember her name because 95% of the time that I was in that room, my eyes were closed. I did not look at anybody. I didn't want to even peep my eyes open. Like, I literally just sat there with my eyes closed, yelling. I had somebody holding me, right? And this was when I was about 8 centimeters dilated. I had somebody holding me, and they were telling me like I was falling over. Like, from fainting, I wasn't responsive. I just kept wanting to fall. And I just remember the nurse telling that person, like, she really needs to make a decision on whether she wants epidural or not. I know she said she wanted to do natural, but I'm worried for her. You know, being concerned because I'm literally fainting. When she had asked me, like, sweetie, are you sure you don't want to do epidural? Like, please, if you faint and whatnot, or anything bad happens, we're gonna have to do a cesarean, like emergency C-section. And that's when I was like, oh hell no. I was like, I need the epidural now. And I was not fucking around. I needed it. Then not even like 5 minutes later, is it the anesthesiologist? The person who does the epidural, he came in not even 5 minutes later and was telling me the whole process of everything, had me sign like consent form that he can do it. What was really is that I waited so long to get the epidural. When you get it, they have like this long needle that has to go back in your back, whatever, you could feel it. That wasn't the worst part. The worst part was when I was told that I can't move. So I was like, oh shit. But I did perfectly fine with just sitting still. It's not even 15 minutes later, I felt good. The epidural definitely started working. My like bottom torso area and down was just numb. My toes were numb, my legs were numb, everything was numb. You only feel it in one specific area and it's not bad at all. The pain was fine. So I'm just sitting there trying to drink water, trying to get myself together. I would say about 7:45-ish is when the nurse came in, and she checks me and she's like, oh, well, it's time, you're ready. I'm like, what? Excuse me? What? I didn't expect to start delivering so early, but thank God I did, because I rather deliver like during the day, evening, rather than in the middle of the night. She comes in, she's like, okay, first we have to do a practice push. It was a little hard to push because the times where I really thought I was pushing, I wasn't, because you can't feel anything and you really have to train your body or figure out your body to push. So that was a little scary, honestly, because it's like, okay, how am I gonna feel when the baby comes? Like, this sucks. But no, everything went fine. Around 8:30-ish, or 8:20, whatever, is when the midwife and the labor delivery doctor actually came in, and they said, all right, well, are you ready? What was crazy to me was that all that time, the contractions and just getting my body ready for delivery took way longer, obviously, than having to really deliver the baby. Because by 8:46 p.m. was when I had him. It was when he was born. Now, you know, normally babies cry, but when she grabbed Elias, my son's name is Elias, when she grabbed Elias and like put him on my chest, his eyes were so big, like, oh my God, where the hell am I? It was crazy. And yeah, he was, you know, making noises and whatnot, but that's all he was doing. He was just being very observant, and I'm like, isn't it too early for you to open your eyes? Why aren't you crying? Are you just, what? But no, he was a perfectly healthy baby. The reason why I chose Elias was because I wanted something kind of biblical, and that just means a lot to me. If it was kind of like the book of Eli, or just Eli in general. But yes, it's Elias, and he was born beautifully, like healthy, a good 19.5 inches long, 6 pounds and 9 ounces, and it definitely was a blessing. Now what they did was they took Elias straight away to deal with him, like clean him up. I don't know if they did shots right away or later, but they just went ahead and took him and got him cleaned, because I actually had to get stitched up. Now I got like this 2nd degree tear. I don't remember what it was, but they spent about 30 minutes stitching me up because I tore so bad. Unfortunately, after she had stitched me up, like I could still hear her, but she in a way was just talking to the nurse behind me. She had mentioned that I couldn't stop oozing, and they couldn't find where I kept oozing from. I don't exactly know if that just meant bleeding, but she used the word oozing, and it worried me. She was stitching me up, she took all that time stitching me up, and for some reason I just could not stop bleeding. And she looks at me and she's like, I'm sorry, sweetheart, but I'm gonna monitor you just for a little bit, because for some reason you're still oozing, and if that just keeps happening, we're gonna have to take you to the OR. They had told me that I did lose a lot more blood than I should have, which kind of makes sense. So every time I get like piercings, I know this is something completely different, but whenever I get piercings and whatnot, I'm always losing a lot of blood. She was mentioning that she had to take me to the OR, but she left the room, came back 20 minutes later, and then I was fine. After, I would say an hour later, my body just went into shock. I could not stop shaking. I'll admit, I really tried to stop shaking. I was like, why is my body shaking? I don't understand. Like, I'm fine. I wasn't shaking when he first came out of me, but no, it was bad. The nurse had offered, like, oh, do you want what is it called? A mommy something, which was like apple juice, orange juice, and cranberry juice all in one. I was like, oh my god, yes, please. Like, I would love that. Drinking my water. And I ate a few crackers. And all of a sudden I look at her and I'm like, uh-oh. And then, bleh, I just threw up everywhere. I threw up all over my side. I was still shaking. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I didn't know I was gonna throw up. I don't know why I threw up. But she's like, it's okay. It's normal. It happens. You're fine. So she changed me, everything. I was like, okay, I'm definitely gonna wait on eating. I couldn't eat till about, I'd say 1 a.m., 2 a.m. And I was like, okay, I think I'm fine now. I'm gonna go ahead and eat again. Tried eating, but this time I have a bag, right? But I look at the person that was in the room with me. I look at him and I'm like, oh no, I think I'm gonna puke again. And then I grab the bag and I'm like throwing up all over in the bag, which is just like a small little bag. Threw up in the bag again. Basically, I could not eat until the morning of. I was in labor for a little over 22 hours. I didn't eat or sleep for over 30. It was pretty bad. Like, I haven't gotten a full night's rest. So that also didn't help with how sick I felt, how tired I was. But nonetheless, I still ate, thankfully. My body, I could feel my toes again. I could feel my legs. But I couldn't go to the bathroom on my own. I always had to wait for a nurse to check up on me in order to go to the bathroom, or just call them. I eventually ended up staying another night there. So I stayed the night at this hospital for 2 nights in a row, and I didn't leave till about I would say like the evening, like 2 p.m. So officially April 12th around 3 p.m. was when I welcomed my little Elias in to our home. So far with this recording, I know it took a long time to give y'all a story time, but it has been very busy, of course. Like right now, Elias is sleeping, kind of. He's like, I can hear him waking up and stuff, because he's in the next room right now. Like, that's where his room is. If one thing about motherhood that has taught me is patience. Now, in general, I already have a lot of patience with the type of work I do with caregiving. Hold on, my baby's crying. I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. I think I stopped on caregiving, but it's not hard, but it's also not easy at the same time. And there are days where it would be really tough, like for the days that he's very clingy, which isn't a bad thing, because of course, like, I'm his mother. Of course he wants to be with me all the time. Nonetheless, like, it truly is a blessing. I'm so in love with him. He's such a good boy. He really is. And he's grown fairly quickly. He's now over a month old, and he's my little chunky boy. I love that. He's reached his milestone so quickly. Like, by the second week, he's been like trying to hold his head up, and he's been really good at it too. Like, I'm so proud of him. Now he's at the point where he'll hold his head up, but then there are times where he gets too tired and will like bonk my chest on accident. He loves the camera. Every time he sees himself on the camera, which I don't know how babies' visions work, but whenever he would see it, he'd stare at the phone and he'd like smile, and it's so adorable. I love him. I try not to cry, but I think I'm gonna cry. Basically, you guys were with me on this journey, you know, with me doing the YouTube videos about like the maternity videos. If I could go back and like tell my past self, like I just would want to tell her like, you're gonna be fine, you're gonna be all right, you know, what you're feeling is totally normal. At the end, you and Elias made it and are healthy. Why am I crying? I would just tell her like, I'm proud of you for doing it. Like, you made it, and he's healthy, he's beautiful, you did amazing. I don't know why I'm crying. I'm trying not to because I have like a lot of makeup. If you liked and enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, leave a comment of what you would like to see next. Definitely tell me your experience with labor, whether it's good or bad ones. I'd like to hear about it. And nonetheless, I will see y'all in the next video. Bye.